So have you ever wondered how you can capitalize on your PhD, the one that you have so earned hardly? And, you probably had so many opportunity costs in the sense of you said no to so many things in your life, in your spare time. Did you have spare time anyway? So you've been working a lot, and probably you weren't paid well as a PhD. And now the question is, as a postdoc, as an experienced PhD, thinking of, should you continue in academia, or should you venture out or even pivot out and transition your career into business or industries. And I want to share with you some stories of my own, because that is something that I seldomly do. Normally in my e-courses, workshops, or all career sessions, I've been sharing with you how you should do it, and I'm asking you why you should do it, and also then we can derive the next steps. But seldomly I share so much about myself, because I think that everyone is different, and maybe it's hard for you to discern your transferable skills when you know mine. But still, this is a common question in my direct messages. So I put together this slide so that you can see how I did it, and maybe you are inspired and encouraged to do something similar, if not the same. All right. So without further ado, there's a professor in the middle, and I put it there on purpose, right? So I love being a professor, but being a mom, becoming a mom, was the most profound experience and really turning point in my life. And working as a professor is something that I have always wanted, but at the same time, working in a normal in at daytimes is really hard for a mom, the mom that I want to be. And that's why I was always thinking of how can I run a business in a way that really supports my values, my vision of life as a mom, also a mom of little ones. All right, so let's go. First of all, you all probably have a PhD already, or you're still in the making. So you are a budding postdoc, so to speak, right? So I did my PhD in neuroscience in 2008. So I'm 41 years old now. And I did that at the Rural University of Bochum at the research school. And I highly recommend, if you are not at a graduate school anymore, or if you are, then try to find, if you are doing your postdoc, or if you want to do a postdoc somewhere else, try to find a graduate school where you can also be associated with, because I've seen this at graduate schools where I serve their PhD students, that they also let their postdocs benefit from all my career counseling services. So that's a tip number one. Maybe if you are a budding postdoc, check out whether at the university you are, planning your postdoc experience, whether they also have a graduate school where you can be associated to get also access to all career counseling services as well. So after that, and after my PhD at the Ruhr University Research School, which was really a great thing, and I put the link to that in the show notes because I'm a proud alumna, and I think it's really a great interdisciplinary approach. I became an IT analyst, and it really is because of the Ruhr Research School that I have been able to become an IT analyst, because through my studies, or through my PhD studies, I was acquainted to people, to PhD students of different labs, also the neurocomputational lab. And they did a lot of coding in their experience, and that inspired me then to also code my own experience in the neuropsychology lab. So I didn't have to do it, but I did it to be independent from the admin who would help us from the IT side. And I said, no, I can't wait. I have a scholarship of 36 months, and I really do need to finish within that time frame because I don't want to prolong anymore. I just want to be finished at that time. And I'll tell you why in a second. But essentially, that learning experience to code was the ticket into IT industry for me. And right after my graduation day, I started as an IT analyst. Okay, so transferable skills, right? So what were my transferable skills? And maybe you can also relate to, I think that PhD students in the STEM fields, like, you know what STEM is, they all probably have a strong quantitative background in statistical analysis, and that's like prone for data, science data, analytics, big data, whatever it is, right? Machine learning. If you learn one language, then you probably can learn another language, like MATLAB, like R, like, Python, something like that. So I learned to code. I have an affinity of coding, but I'm really not an IT person. But what I was acquiring also in my PhD was to be a strategic thinker. Okay, because it was so interdisciplinary, I had to think and see the patterns, and to work with different teams. And I think that if you want to achieve your PhD within 36 months, you have to lead your project. You cannot just wait and see, and you have to be the driving force behind that. And that, I think, has led to me, being a project manager, so to speak, for my own research. But also I was able to teach, or I was asked to teach, and you don't really say no, right? So I did teaching, and I did enjoy it then, and I still do enjoy it. And I think that was the most valuable experience to me, so that I was able to, develop younger students, bachelor students, into their role as a student working on experience and something like that. So I'm able to do this in German and also in English, and that is also something really valuable. I wouldn't attribute that to my PhD, but on the other hand, my PhD was also in English, so maybe it's also related to that. So what were the jobs that I was able to do with my PhD in neuroscience? And I forgot my original background, which is I'm a psychologist. So I'm a psychologist turned neuroscientist turned IT analyst and consultant and IT strategy consultant. That was the last role that I had. And in these kinds of roles, I did a lot of IT, like software releases, release management, program management, change management, IT infrastructure changes, transformations in mergers and acquisitions. That is when a company, says it doesn't want to have a certain part of the company anymore, and they sell that part to another company, and then the whole infrastructure, the IT infrastructure, the people, the processes, the tasks, and everything has to be dissected, and the other company has to merge that within their own structures. And I always supported the people side, knowing and understanding and relating to the people who are working on the architectural IT side, infrastructure side. So that's why I was always the interface. I was the person at the interface between the tech and the commercial side, the buying side, the whatever, the marketing side, the legal side, whatever. So I was someone who was really able to lead internally, but also outwards, so externally. All right. And while I was happy doing that, I became pregnant. And I always wanted to become a mom. We just didn't feel pregnant right away. So I was really happy. And I thought that, well, I can try to pursue my career within consulting, but obviously it's not that easy to be a consultant. And also, I was practically living out of my suitcase from Monday to Thursday, and I was only coming home for Fridays for the weekend. And then on the weekend, I was already thinking of my next flight to whatever it is. And so it was something that I thought, well, if I am now responsible for this person that is living or, growing in my tummy, I want to be, I don't want to be the mom that is only on the phone and says, hello, how are you? And so on. So I thought that, well, maybe what are the transferable skills that I have gained up until then? And they were different because as a consultant, you are always thinking of how can you support your clients, services, processes, products, how can you improve them to be more future-proof, right? So how can you make them even better? And that's something that I call entrepreneurial thinking, okay? So you're not an entrepreneur. It's not your own money, but your client trusts you to come up with ideas so that they can make more money, that they can save more money, that they can, have less risk in investing their money and stuff like that. So I was always honing my skills in the entrepreneurial side, so within a company. And also I was job crafting because as a consultant, you always try to have an extended contract, right? To have your contract extended. So when they decide whether they want to have you still in the project or whether you should go. So I was always trying to work that way so that they will still want me. And that is sort of like job crafting. I was always looking at additional things that I could do to make myself valuable for them. And if you have listened to all the other, career events that I shared for National Postdoc Appreciation Week, I always said something like transferable skills, valuable, monetizable, something like that. And here's the example of how I did it. Okay, so maybe you make a note and jump to all the other career sessions, and then probably it will click in a different way. And for me, working in IT, it was always about leading innovations. So being at the forefront, and I think that's also great for scientists like you, because I think that when you are working in a field where it's exciting, like Web3 at the moment, right? Non-fungible tokens or something like that, it's really important and it does change a lot. So it really is something that I think that can ignite also and also relate to your scientific verb, I think, right? So I was always leading innovation, but all still at the same time, just doing IT was something where my heart as a psychologist was really deprived. So I did pick up teaching as well. So I did pick up teaching psychology modules at the university, at the Applied University where I am currently working as a professor. Okay, so I dipped my toe into, or I dipped it back, so to speak, into lecturing, and it was okay. And then they said, you know what, we really like what you do as a lecturer. Maybe you want to become a professor at our university. And I said, well, you know what, I'm really paid well. You cannot afford me. I like doing this, but you cannot afford me. Whatever you pay me is probably way less, and it's the truth. But I said, you know what, there's only one reason that I will become a professor, and that is when I'm pregnant. Because when I'm pregnant, it's not about the money. It's more about the time that I can spend at my own terms with my kids, right? So that was the best decision ever. I'm so happy I'm so happy that I have become a professor in 2014. And I think the next slide will also show that. So I fell pregnant in 2013, obviously. 2014, my daughter was born, and I had to reevaluate my career options. And I knew that doing that career that I always wanted in IT consulting was not possible at my terms. But instead, I would obey. And I said, no, I'm responsible for this person I'm having in my tummy. I don't want to just obey. I have a PhD. I'm smart enough. I've put so much work into to sustain that. And I want to make this more my way and not someone else's way or some other company's way. And that's why I said I need to realign that with my vision of life. So, do you have any questions? I know this is not live anymore, but on the other hand, I still have the questions submissions form, on my website. So just go to my website and you can see that at the banner. Maybe I'll share the other banner now. So if you want to submit your career questions, then go to my website. And there's a banner for, I think I'll call it Evergreen National Postdoc Appreciation, something like that. And then you can click on that and you'll find a replay link for all of the 5 career sessions that I did for National Postdoc Appreciation Week. And then you can scroll down and find the form for asking questions. And I want you to enter all your questions. I will monitor this 24/7, when I have time, I will answer that. And even if your graduate school is not yet a client of mine, which is okay, only the best universities can afford and do invest in their own PhD students the way I think they deserve, right? So even if your graduate school is not my client yet, then you can ask the questions and I will pick them up in my free social media. And I'm planning also a podcast. So feel free to ask. I will find a way to answer your questions. All right. So maybe I shall share also about how to become a professor and what it is. And like I said, I was appointed as a professor in my pregnancy, and I was in the 7th month, I think, when I got this, the diploma, the confirmation that I will become a professor. And I started with my first lectures when my daughter was 9 weeks old. And that was really hard because she didn't obviously sleep through the night, and I breastfed her until she was 13 months old. And all my students who I had back then, they knew that I was a new mom, and they put up with me. You have to do some pumping in between the lectures, or my husband or my parents brought my daughter to our place at the university so that I could give her some milk, and then I returned to the lectures and something like that. So it was really wild, and I really appreciate all my students. But I think that they also had a very seldom and rare opportunity to see a woman professor young enough to have kids, to actually have children, and to actually breastfeeding them during the times when they needed it. And I think that was something that I also shared in another podcast episode, Job Sharing and Beyond, with Karen Tischler. I will link to that episode in the show notes. And it was a tough time. And nowadays, I'm a seasoned professor. 2014, 2022, so to speak. We've got 2 years of Corona semesters behind us, and I've always been a digital professor, so I think that we managed pretty well. But at the same time, 2014, like I said, I wanted to capitalize also on my PhD, and I said that I have much more to offer and to bring to the table. And I also said this in the career sessions before, that you should think about the things that you can bring to the table, and sometimes you have more to give, and they don't want that, or they don't pay that, and they don't appreciate it in a sense. So what I did then, I started local career trainings at my graduate school. They asked me to conduct a training to enable and encourage other PhD students to be as thriving in industries like I did in their eyes. And when they asked me, I was like, wow, I really did feel like a failure when I left academia. I did this, like, I prepared this almost secretly, and there were very few people that I trusted with that decision. And it was really hard for me to, get the things done in academia and still be prepared for the next job. Because as you remember, it was like December 2008, graduation day, January 2009, I was already starting in business. And yeah, it was really a tough time for me. And that's why I felt so honored to come back to my graduate school in the sense of being a role model. And I put together a training that was first 1 day, then 2 days, then through Corona, it was 2 days in virtual, which was hard. And then I put together this e-course system so that we can have the e-courses as the main content. And then once they have digested that content at their own pace, whenever they want, across the whole semester on their mobile or on their whatever they want, the end devices. And then we can have some workshops where they work on the stuff that they have learned with me then. So that was then only a 5-hour workshop. And that was the epiphany moment for me, because I saw that I am able to teach people that I don't know via an e-course, and then we can meet in regular workshops or even memberships across the year, so that we make the best out of the time. And I'm so happy that my graduate school was really so future-proof and so thinking, or is that thinking. And they actually just a couple of days won a research marketing prize in Germany. So I'm really proud about them. And I'll link, like I said, I'll link down to the show notes, because I think that within Germany, that's the place to be for your PhD. If you're thinking as an aspiring master student, if you are a postdoc and you're thinking of going abroad for your postdoc experience, then that university, the Ruhr University of Bochum, is really great. And also they have a great graduate school. All right, so during the Corona times, I think we all know how it was, right? So I don't have to reiterate that. But I had two kids at the age of 2 and 5 at that time who had to stay at home and were not, one of them was still having his diapers, right? So it was really hard, and the little one was not able to speak. So the first Corona year, we were a team of 3 at home the same day, all day long. My husband had to work outside of the home, so he came back at night, but it was hard for us to, I didn't know what my son was thinking, because he wasn't able to speak at the moment. And still I had to lecture and to be present for my students. And that was really a tough time. And that kicked off then my urge to reevaluate all my options, and also to double down on the business side. Because I have to prevent my own burnout, right? So you cannot, if you are a woman, and if you're thinking of becoming a mom, or you are already a mom as a PhD or as a postdoc, or even as a professor maybe, you cannot serve everything equally well as if it was only one task. Instead, you have to think which you have to prioritize. And this evaluation of your prioritization is something that is regular, that is ongoing. It's not just a decision like this. And to me, honestly, it's something, it heavily depends on the youngest kid, so to speak. Because the youngest kid is it determines our whole life. Of the older kid, I can expect some more, but essentially the smallest kid is the one that really is the bottleneck. And I try to digitize everything possible in my professorship and also in my business, so that I had a lot of automized processes. And I think that if there's anything that I can do better, let me know. But I think I've got my things all good, well covered. And I also rebranded my business, because what I didn't want was to be working at the times when my kids need me. So we are now like 9 o'clock in the evening in Germany. My husband can take care of the kids, and I'm working here for the US version of the National Postdoc Appreciation Week. I could have also offered my workshops or my career sessions for the German career, for the German or the UK National Postdoc Appreciation Week, but I intentionally offered my career events just for the American one. Could have been also the Australian one, but I wanted to have this geo arbitrage effect, in the sense of I can work at times where others are working, but my kids aren't needing me anymore because it's still nighttime, or it's nighttime almost. Right. So, and then that was one thing. I did it in person, locally based, and now I'm venturing out to be global. And I can only do this because I have a business model that is heavily depending on my e-courses. And the e-courses are accessible from everywhere. You just need internet, right? So that's really cool. And the online memberships and something like that, that's always at the times like now. All right, so if you have questions, please do answer, or please do ask, and I will answer them via my social media. And I'm always said to be a serial career transitioner. So one of my PhD students said, you know what, I get it. So you can change from wherever to wherever without any problems. But I don't know whether I can do this. So one thing is, it's a routine. Okay, I've become an experienced serial career transitioner. I've pivoted from here to here to here, and every pivot was better than the one before. If you see me now thriving, it's because I had some failures in the years before. Right? So I'm 41. I've got probably 15 years more experience than you, if you're watching me. So I'm upskilling constantly. So the last couple of years, especially during the Corona crisis, more the digital part of that, I had to learn how to build better lectures online, and not just to record myself doing the slides or whatever. Right? I had to build services, the marketing, the selling, the delivery portion is really different in person with the people on site in German. Instead, it's virtually completely different. And that's something that you have to learn. And I think that because I have been career transitioning before, that really does help me, that I am confident that I can master that. So if you are thinking of doing something similar, right? So maybe you're thinking, during my PhD or during my postdoc, I want to earn also a little bit more money because it doesn't provide enough for my living. If you become a family, you probably need more money than that, what you've been offered as a postdoc salary or a PhD stipend, right? So I can give you some overview. What you could do is my own students are bachelor and master students, and they are constantly asking me, do you know someone who can teach this and this module in a better way, because the professors are not really good in teaching online. And I always have to laugh about it, and it's like, yeah, I know. For example, I have a PhD student who is really good in statistics, and I always tell, you can go to him and he is really good, and he can also explain it well. And if you have something like that, in the sense of, you've been probably a great student, you've been probably a good PhD student, unless that, or if you're not, then probably you are not thinking about becoming a postdoc, right? So you're really good at at some of your modules probably. And if you want, you could also get paid, I mean, get better paid for that in terms of creating an e-course and explaining the basics and also some advanced stuff for statistics or whatever field you are or whatever module you are experienced. And then you can sell that because it really is something different and it's on top. It's not part of your lectures. You don't have to. That's extra. If you are investing your own time and effort into delivering a better service to your students, the bachelor and master students, will probably be happy to pay for that. And if not, their parents probably will be very happy to pay for a course that helps their kids to maneuver through their studies, right? So I would pay for that as a parent. So you are at the unique situation that you know what the curricula are that you are teaching. And I bet that you've become a teaching assistant, more or less paid, right? So instead of doing that, you could also do this as an e-course, create the e-course and sell that to your own students because it's something else and it's also extra. So why shouldn't you also get some money for that, right? So if you want to do that, that's entrepreneurial side. That's an entrepreneurship. And you probably need a website or a sales page. So you need a learning management system. You need a marketing automation system if you don't want to spend a lot of time on doing that, right? So you don't want to market that constantly. It should be automated so that you can do your research instead of, marketing your services. So if you have all that in place, then it's like, it's really easy. And if you want to venture then out and say you want to offer that not only at your university, but also other universities, because probably there aren't people who are at your level able to relate to the PhD, to the younger students. I mean, I'm 41 years old. I'm barely at the edge of that they can relate to me, right? I'm not that cool anymore. So it's like, I don't know. But I guess that you are probably in the same age range like them, just like 5 years older, and that's a great role model. So I bet you are inspiring for them. So what I do in my business, what you don't have to, is I do podcasting. I'm planning on doing a podcast. I do TikTok and Instagram because that's probably where my target group is. And also I offer a blog and YouTube, so that's long form. So that's what I'm saying is that I had to upskill in my marketing skills because I didn't have any at all. So being a business was, before Corona, was more like very self-explanatory. I had my clients who always booked me and they told others, they called them and told them, you should go there. And it was all in the vicinity. And nowadays I have to reach a bigger audience to, get some brand awareness, and something like that is only possible via long form and also short form content. Okay. Right. So, everything that I do is aligned with my own vision of life. And that's why I told you that it's so important in my first or second, almost in every of these career sessions, but always from a different angle, why it's so important to know your own vision of life. If you have no idea what it is, go back to the other videos. But to be honest, it is, in short, how do you want to live your life after your PhD? Not just a couple of years after that, not just next week after the PhD, but more like in your 50s, 60s, 70s, what will you have achieved because you have done your PhD? I mean, your life as a 60-year-old person, as a 70-year-old person should differ from the life of someone who didn't do a PhD, right? You should earn the quality of life that you deserve. And that's why it's so important that you have a vision of life, because that's like the North Star that you can look up to and say, is this really valuable, and also, is this goal directed or not? So for me, I want to spend my time less one-on-one. I want to have more automated services. I want more classroom that is flipped and not traditional. Okay, so you have to know what you want, and then everything else will fall into place. And if you are a budding edupreneur, I should learn how to pronounce that correctly. So if you are a budding entrepreneur, then you should let me know, because I think that this is a business model that really can help you. And maybe it's a great side hustle, especially if you're in statistics or something like that. So everything that is needed by a lot of students, that's where you should focus on. Okay, so I'm planning to commit to myself a new email, an e-course dedicated to entrepreneurship, to all the tech stack that I can teach you how to do this and everything like that, if there are sufficient numbers of people interested in that. So let's see how this, call will resonate with you. If you think that's important and that's relevant, you want to dive in, let me know. And at best, use the questions form so that I know that it's easily pulled into my content ideation form. Okay, so let's see. If you, however, think, well, becoming an entrepreneur is still too far-fetched, then you still maybe want to switch and to leap into business or industries as a first step, like I did. I mean, I didn't become an entrepreneur right after my PhD. You could, but I had not the skills needed, to be honest. And that's why if you want to leap out of science, then consider my structured guidance via an email course where I talk about all these kind of topics, 1 to 10 every month, or you binge the information. And you may want to take a screenshot so that you can indulge in that, whether if you can answer these questions, 1 to 10, how to leave out of science, how to build your sustainable LinkedIn profile, etc. If you can answer all of this, but I know already, you don't need my email course. But if you want to transition into business and you have one no only in these 10 questions, this email course is for you. It's for free because I use a lot of automation here so that it makes, it's really cost sensitive for me, in a sense that I'm paid by the graduate schools, but I don't want to be paid by PhD students. So this is, like I said, my 5th career session for National Postdoc Appreciation Week. I'm really thankful for having been able and allowed to present this as a German. I don't know whether I mentioned that, but I'm in Germany. I'm German. So I have 5 sessions: how to check your readiness to leap out of science, how to network, how to use social media, and the last one was yesterday about the 10 steps to transition your career into business. And if you're thinking, what do graduate schools, or what do I do with graduate schools or at graduate schools? Well, graduate schools that are innovative, like some Max Planck institutes also book my services as an e-course. And then obviously the Ruhr University graduate school, they do have my e-courses for the whole semester for all their graduate schools, graduate students, PhD students, and they can learn how to transition their careers into business all semester long. And then they offer 2 or 3 workshops for just 10 people or 6 people. And then we discuss their CV, their application, their motivation letters. We also have some role play where I pretend to be the recruiting manager, and then they have to present themselves and to do an assessment and something like that. So we all do that either regularly across the year for just an hour or 2 hours every week or month, or by a workshop of 5 hours. But essentially, the bulk of the information I provide as an e-course so that we can practice on what they have learned in the e-courses one-on-one with me. Like, remember, I wanted to reduce my one-on-one times. Instead, I wanted to be able to scale my business, and that's possible via the e-courses. All right, so I thank you. If you have stayed until now, I want you to, last banner here, sign up to my free email courses. One, we talked a lot about the career transition made simple with the 10 emails that you can also binge. All right, so you can also binge that. So if you think, oh my God, I don't have 10 months anymore, I have only 4, then you can binge all my emails. You just have to reflect on that. And there's another email course that is really dear to my heart because it's about how to juggle parenthood and a career. And it's a mighty but fine and small email course. And I really hope that if you become a mom, or if you are already a working mom, if you become a father in academia, please subscribe to that to see how you can juggle. And maybe there are some more, 2 or 3 more ideas to juggle that better. And please share all of my free resources with other early career scientists, because this is how I can reach a lot of people. And maybe they have a graduate school that also books my services, and that would be really, that would be my business then. And I'm really happy to serve you for free. And please share all my services with whoever can benefit that. It's your postdoc transformation, and make it also mine. Thank you. Soei-Winkels. Bye-bye.